Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal, where, as you can see, I'm joined by CBS Sports' James Benge for this week's Inside Arsenal Extra Time. James, how you doing, my friend? You all good?
I'm pretty well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Got over the disappointment of Sunday's final. Now a few days in the rearview mirror, isn't it? Disappointing, of course, but yeah, just focused on the Premier League now. I think as soon as that's finished, it's like, right, when do Arsenal start? And it's not long at all, is it? We're counting down the days now.
Were you not sort of vaguely excited to get a few days of peace and quiet until the Gareth Southgate announcement and all that came along?
No, not really. I just want more football, to be honest. I think I'm over. I had my little break as soon as the Premier League finished before the Euros. Now it's just give me football back. Give me club football back, more importantly.
The real
And
stuff.
yeah, no, I'm very much looking forward to it now. The Euros was kind of the warm up, really, and now the important stuff starts again. Not to say it wasn't important. Of course, it was. Congratulations to Spain. And yeah, I was very, very gutted on Sunday night leaving the pub, I have to say, but in the end, football won. The best team won, and yeah, deserving champions.
Well, no, of course they were. Yeah, no, they were brilliant. Really enjoyed watching Spain. I think it's quite exciting, frankly, that the sort of blueprint now for changing international tournament, winning international tournaments, looks like it might have changed a bit. I mean, Argentina were pretty unwatchable, weren't they, for a lot of the World Cup? So let's not get carried away. But it's good to see sort of a team come and play on the front foot and, frankly, just knock out all the teams that were playing less than the football that they could produce with their some of their parts. I don't know if we want to talk briefly about Southgate.
Yeah, we'll talk about him. We'll talk about him. I suppose. Yeah, I mean, look, I said it on my show. I don't know, yesterday, or this morning, whenever the announcement was. It was this morning because I missed yesterday's announcement by about 20 minutes. Yeah, look, I think it was the right decision. I think he's done a lot of good things with England, but I think it was absolutely the right decision. Time was right for him to go after 8 years. Whoever's going to take over from him are going to be inheriting an excellent squad that is worlds apart from the one that Southgate inherited 8 years ago. You know, tactically, he's not great, and I think England can do much, much better. But you know, he's done a fantastic job, and I'm not convinced either that. I mean, I'm sure England can get a much better manager tactically and everything than Gareth Southgate. But I think in international football, and especially with England, I don't think that might not be a given that he's going to be the better manager is going to be more successful than Southgate in uniting everyone and getting a tune out of his players. But look, the time was right. It was time to move on, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen tactically great managers like Antonio Conte that are sort of incapable of handling certain situations at club level, and it really gets them very little quite quickly. And I think when you kind of get whoever you do get to succeed, Gareth Southgate has to both be able to sort of improve England tactically, make them a team that presses ever, but also sort of keep all the great stuff that Southgate's had. I know that a lot of sort of younger fans might not fully appreciate this, but in my lifetime, I've seen much more talented England teams than this one. Looking at that team from 2004 to sort of 2010-ish, or 2002 to 2010, wherever you want to draw the dividing lines, achieve a lot less and never sort of really give us reason to believe they might be a group of people that liked each other. And I think that, like you say, that counts a lot. I'd like Klopp, and I'd be willing to wait a year for him.
I would love Klopp.
Before we go to Arsenal, is that what you go for?
I would go for Klopp. Yeah, I mean, Klopp absolutely just ticks all the boxes. I know it's like, I was listening on the radio yesterday and people were ringing in saying it's got to be an Englishman. It's got to be an Englishman, which I don't agree with necessarily. And I think Klopp, I mean, he gets English football. He gets the passion, which obviously is important to a lot of people. And he's excellent. He's a brilliant manager, but he's also excellent at uniting a squad and getting everyone playing. Kind of like the good points of what Southgate had. Klopp's got that in abundance, but then he's also got the tactical nous and the winning mentality and everything like that. And I think he'd be absolutely perfect. I don't think he'll do it. So I think we're living in a dreamland, to be honest. I'd be very surprised if England can get Jurgen Klopp, but he would absolutely be my choice. And look, whoever comes in, job one is going to be getting this man back to the international stage. Which,
yes.
Southgate was unable to do, thanks to, well, large part his coaching staff and the way the situation was handled. But the new guy, I don't think it's a given that Ben immediately walks back into this. I'm sure there's going to have to be conversations done, and whoever the new manager is going to want to find out exactly what went on and why he made himself unavailable for England and all that sort of stuff. So I don't think it's necessarily like click your fingers, you're back in the England picture. But it's certainly a phone call that if I was a new manager of England, I would be making straight away, because Ben White would have to be in my squad, no doubt about it. How on earth did Kyle Walker get in team of the tournament?
Oh, sometimes, especially in our line of work, you sort of things like team of the tournaments, you kind of have to prep them beforehand, because if it's not kind of ready to go within a few hours of the final whistle, it kind of loses any interest. So I have to assume they did the same with Kyle Walker. But even then, like, God, that
if
was
if
generous.
you're doing it before the final, though, he shouldn't have been anywhere near it. I mean, look, Walker's brilliant, and he's been exceptional for England, for Man City. But it was way off it in this tournament. It's the worst I've seen Kyle Walker play for a long, long time. In pretty much every single game he played, I have no idea. I don't know how Musiala got in there as a striker either, to be honest. So there was a couple of odd choices. Musiala was great when he was playing for Germany, but he didn't play as a striker, and there's got to be others who were ahead of him in the running for that. But back to Ben White.
Does he get in the England team?
I think he does. Well, I mean, that's why I was talking about Kyle Walker there. I think he does. If I was England manager, I'd be playing Ben White. There's just absolutely no doubt about it. Now, Kyle Walker would have been fantastic, but how old's Walker now? 33? What would it be for the next World Cup? 35? So I think for me, it's either, look, it depends what happens with Reece James, if he can get himself really fit, because Reece James is an excellent player when he's fit. Trent, we know his qualities, we know his deficiencies. I mean, for me, Ben White's the best all-round right back England have got, 100%. Combine the fact that he would be playing, you can link him up with Bukayo Saka down that right-hand side, which would give be hugely beneficial for England because of how well they know each other and the relationship they've already got. It'd be on my team sheet straight away, Ben White.
Yeah, just to be clear, I was asking that question more as a prompt for discussion rather than me being like skeptical. I mean, the Saka side of it alone, I think, is if you're coming up with a way to make your best player at Euro 2024 even better, putting him with Ben White would be really shrewd. I wonder if maybe as well you could sort of do it. The joy of White is I don't really think you should be planning to play him as a centre-back anymore, although, international football asks difficult things of players and different things of players. But, I mean, if you look at the sort of role that Kyle Walker had in previous tournaments that he did brilliantly for England as that sort of right-back, third centre-back, I mean, by God, Ben White is tailor-made for that. And you could do that, have Trent or Reece James at wing-back, and still, if you've got the time on the training ground, if you can convince Ben White to get on board straight away with a view to this all being settled by the 2026 World Cup, you could have this right flank that dominates the whole tournament, where you don't have to spend ages on the training ground because you know what White and Saka can do, and you sort of leave them to cook. And we see that with so many international teams, don't you? Austria were great because a lot of what they did was sort of imported from RB Salzburg, and Rangnick knows that system well. Even Spain, it's kind of not quite all like, it's not quite like the Barcelona team plus a few Real Madrid players of years gone by, but these are players that know each other, that play in the same league. And I think to an extent, England could have been better at exploiting that, making it easy. And like you say, if you can just chuck the right flank to Mikel Arteta to coach you for like 50 weeks of the year, and then you pick them up and say, yeah, lads, just do what you're doing with Arsenal, that would be brilliant for England.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why I think it's absolutely essential the new manager gets on the phone to Ben, and I'm sure he will, and it'll be interesting. Lee Carsley
has done a great job with the under-21s, hasn't he? And I watched a lot of that tournament, and they were very smartly set up. Carsley at like the 11th hour had been thrown this massive curveball. There was one striker in the squad, Flo Balogun, and he declared for the US, and Carsley worked it out. So I quite like the idea of him holding the fort for a year. And look, the other thing to say, in a year's time, there's another big name manager out of contract. And if you can get either of them, it means they're not in the club game. It means they're not going to be there on those Champions League nights. So FA, let me know what help you need.
no chance Pep walks straight into the England job after Man
I don't
City.
know though.
Pep will be taking a break. I'm absolutely sure of it. But yeah, Klopp,
Yeah.
Cars leave for the Nations League, and then Klopp, once he's had his sabbatical, yeah, I'd be up for that. But I don't think that is going to happen. So Arsenal wise, it's been I was going to say quiet week, but it did feel yesterday like things were beginning. There was certainly a lot to talk about yesterday with Mikel Merino, obviously celebrating his Euro 2024 win by being plastered all over the web pages in England yesterday, with Arsenal being interested in him. So we'll talk about that at some point in the show. We've got Emil Smith-Rowe to talk about as well, which I thought would be an interesting. Well, not Emil Smith-Rowe, it just kind of Edu's target in terms of money to be brought in this summer. I thought would be an interesting one. I mean, he's already done the deals for Sambi. I mean, obviously the money's going to come next year for Nuno, but that's guaranteed money now, providing a couple of things are met, which will happen. Sambi's not an obligation, but you'd hope Arsenal are going to get some money in for Sambi next summer. But those two deals are done, and now the focus is on maybe the big summer transfers. I would say in terms of outgoings, Reece, West Ham, by all accounts, very very interested in Reece. Emil, Fulham, Palace, Eddie. Looks like it'll be something that's sorted after the US tour. I mean, I haven't heard the number. I don't know if you have, but I haven't heard the number of what Fulham had rejected by Arsenal. I haven't been able to get it confirmed. But I think by all accounts, Arsenal are kind of 35 million would be the number that they would absolutely bite your hand off. Probably, I don't know, bite your hand off, but would probably accept this summer. Do you think 100 million is a realistic target for Emil, Reece, Eddie, and then kind of what they've already done? Is that way over the target? I think that's probably what they're going to be aiming for in their head. Actually, maybe not 100, maybe 90 million for the three of them.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Ramsdale in the mix as well.
Yeah,
obviously that's one that at the moment struggling to see which club is going to emerge. I know he's been linked with Southampton. Given his wages, I wonder how complicated a deal that might be.
Well, if you throw Aaron into the mix, 100 million target for the summer is realistic.
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, Arsenal's view on Ramsdale is they expect to make their money back, and I don't mean that in PSR terms, like what they paid, which is totally valid given what Ramsdale was when they bought him and what he is now. I think in that case, even with whenever we have these conversations, I come in and I say, "Oh, you've got to expect less." But actually, I think in that, with all those players in, 100 million is a realistic target, eminently achievable.
Do you think? Sorry, just to cut in there. Do you think the owners will be sitting back in the States and would have had conversations already? No doubt about it. They'll be very involved in the conversations that are going on. That they would have sat down at the start of this summer and said, "Look, we need money in this summer because it's been pretty ropey the last couple of years, and we've backed you to the hill, and we will back you again this summer. But we do need to see, fairly significant cash coming into the club." Do you think they would have sat down and looked at the players who I think we all know and the club would have known were potentially for sale and thought we need to be getting sort of three figures into the kitty just to help things out now?
The impression I get of Stan and Josh, kind of met the latter a couple of times briefly, but I wouldn't say I know him, but you can sort of judge them by their actions, is that I don't think they would be such prescriptive owners as to say, this is a financial target, Edu, and you need to hit that number. And I think they are also, as much as we can have a debate, especially in Stan's case, about how much attention they lavish on Arsenal, they understand the sports market, the sporting world right now, and they know that other teams are in this sort of PSR age not as flush with cash as they might have been pre-COVID. But I mean, equally, I think the view will have been a sort of, in this PSR age, we can't keep writing checks without bringing something back in. This is a year to rebalance the squad. I mean, this is something I wrote about this week, and I sort of wrote about it more in the incoming side. But, if you can sort of take your players that are on the bench that you don't really fancy, but that are young, English, carry good market value, and turn them into guys that Arteta's going to use that may be older, some may be younger, and make a bit of a profit at the same time. I think that really is the view of the market. And barring huge money coming in for one of these players, I don't particularly see it being a window where Arsenal go out and do the big money deal, unless it's a big money deal that absolutely the opportunity is now and it won't be there in 12 months' time. And one thing I would say about the Cronkies, now that they've got full control, and they love emphasizing that point, don't they, is that I think with that full control, they've taken a longer term view, haven't they? And I think that's why you saw a lot of money being spent to get Arsenal to where they are now, and to an extent, slightly tighter purse strings this summer.
I think when they started the summer, I think there definitely would have been. I think Edu probably feels a little bit under pressure this summer to bring in some money because of conversations that have been had. I'm sure they know this is the summer. If Arsenal are going to do it and make some money, it's going to be this summer out of all summers because of the players who are potentially available for the reasons you listed. Young, English, still under contract. There's a market for these players as well. Fulham are in for Smith Rowe, Palace are lurking as well. As I said, West Ham, by all accounts, very much in the mix potentially for Reece if he's going to go. Ramsdale, I know what you mean, but I would still expect there's going to be some sort of market for Aaron because of how good a goalkeeper he is, and Eddie as well. So there is going to be a market there, and I do feel like this is the summer that Edu needs to bring in some cash for, like you said, PSR world. You can't just keep writing checks, and Arsenal have been writing checks, and a lot of them for the last few years. So you need to start sort of balancing out the balance sheet, if you will. And talking about Emil, I mean, obviously me and you are massive fans of Emil, and in my ideal world, he wouldn't be leaving Arsenal. He'd be staying, and we'd be seeing more of him on the pitch because I do think he's got plenty to offer. But obviously, I'm not manager Mikel Arteta is, and I think we've seen that it just doesn't feel like he's going to get much game time if he stays next season. So what's the point in keeping him? You may as well cash in on him and bring someone in who you do back to get valuable minutes in the league. Do you feel like Fulham's going to happen?
Yeah. I think Palace are quite well stocked. I kind of been trying to sort of get a sense of what Smith Rowe's preference is, and I don't know. But I mean, I certainly think he's a smart kid, well advised. I think he would understand that Fulham. Not that it's I mean, he's as good as the players at Palace, but I think that would be challenging. I mean, the tough thing is, I think if you carve out a place for yourself there, that's a really good, encouraging spot. And if Eze were to go, then that team could be yours. You've handed the keys to the attack. Whereas with Fulham, frankly, I think Fulham are going to get relegated, and that could be a hammer blow for Smith Rowe's career. And I have no doubt, he will be thinking along those lines as well. It's not just about kind of getting out of Arsenal and playing first team football for 1 year. Once you kind of move away to a team that gets relegated or is fighting against relegation, it becomes hard to take that jump back up towards a top 6 contender. So it's a really tough one to judge. Obviously, at the moment, Fulham are putting the money down. They have money off the back of João Paulinho. I mean, it's fair to say they don't have a huge amount elsewhere, but they have the money. He's their top target, to the best of my knowledge. So I think that one will happen. But my sort of word of advice for Smith Rowe is if you think Fulham might get relegated, don't go there.
I don't think Fulham are going to get relegated.
Oh, they're rubbish. Rubbish every year. They just somehow...
They weren't rubbish
somehow
last year.
Blag it.
No, I don't think Fulham are going to be relegated. I'd be surprised. I think Fulham would be a good move for him. I agree. I think Palace would be a good move for him as well. I haven't been able to confirm Palace, though. I know that the Fulham stuff is right. I haven't been able to confirm any sort of bid from Palace, and I'm not sure that's happened or not.
I don't think there has been one.
Yeah, I think the interest is there, but I'm not sure there's been actual bid. Whether one arrives, and that we'll have to wait and see. And Reece as well. Are you sort of seeing a summer when Reece is going to go? My gut on Reece is that this is a summer that he will wave goodbye. And it does sound like West Ham are interested. If he went to West Ham, do you think that'd be a move? Do you reckon he could really kick on at West Ham? Do you see him going there and actually playing and really, really making a mark in the Premier League?
really hard to read on West Ham, isn't it? From Reese's perspective, I know the interest is genuine, and I know that it's not just kind of from the West Ham hierarchy who've long kind of and Tim Steiden, I think it's how you pronounce it. He sort of had Nelson on the list for a long time, but I believe that when Lopetegui was in charge at Wolves, I believe that there were sort of conversations about him potentially going there that January, and I mean it obviously didn't transpire, but I think there's sort of interest from all parties in regards to Reece. So I think that one will happen, and it's one that, again, from the player perspective, I'm really intrigued by. You have this sort of this great unknown of what happens with Lucas Paquetá. It feels like whatever happened, if he was to be found innocent, he's probably moving anyway. So maybe that moves Kudus centrally, and then they need someone out on the left wing because you'll have Bowen on the right, I guess. But I mean, obviously, it's all change post Moyes. But I like that move for him. I think, West Ham's always a weird place to go, isn't it? It's not necessarily been a place that's great at taking young English talent and developing it. But if you had a sort of three behind a central striker of Kudus, Bowen, and Nelson, that's a lot of pace. That's a lot of danger on the counter attack, and I think it could be really a good way for Nelson to kickstart his career again. But
yeah, I think so.
I don't know. What do you think from his perspective?
I think he needs to go somewhere and back himself now, doesn't he? He could easily just sit around and have another couple of years at Arsenal, not playing. But there's got to be a time, no matter how comfortable you are at a club, that you make a decision to really go and back yourself and, think you can go and show you're good enough to be a star in the Premier League. I think this is definitely the right time for him. I think West Ham would be a decent move. He's a proper, he's a London boy. I can't imagine Reece going too far outside of London, if you see what I mean. I just think I think if he goes to somewhere where he still feels comfortable, where he's got, home comfort still on his doorstep, I think it could be a good move. And I think Lopetegui's an excellent manager. He's shown he's an excellent manager as well. So, 25 million is the number sort of doing the rounds. If that was the case, if Arsenal do get 25 million for Nelson, I think that's a fairly decent bit of business. I think that would show a lot of people exactly why Arsenal worked pretty hard to get him to sign that new contract rather than walk away on a free 12 months ago as well.
Yeah, and crucially, West Ham are sort of one of the teams that can afford to cover that contract, which is approaching 100 grand a week. I don't know if he will get all that money from West Ham, but unlike some Premier League clubs, I think that's sort of within their remit. The joys of not really paying for your own stadium.
Yeah. Did you see the video yesterday on that Arsenal put up of Reece with Win, the dog, and Lynn actually at Colney?
Oh, and
Lynn was there. Lynn gave him a big hug, obviously welcoming him back, and Win was there as well. And they went out together, out the door. Good old Win. I wonder if he'll. Well, I imagine he will go on the US tour as well.
What dog would West Ham have?
I wouldn't even know where to start with that. I'm not quick enough.
Actually, could get quite complicated.
I'm not quick enough to come up with a funny response to that.
They're British Bulldog, aren't they? Or what's that? Not an XL bully, but not an XL bully.
We'll just stick with Win rules. Labradors rule. They're my favourite dogs anyway. It's gonna be interesting with some of these players going off to the US tour, because you'd imagine Reece, Eddie, Emil, everyone, unless something happens very, very quickly now, they are going to be going out to the US tour. It's not like Arsenal are flush with players at the moment. So all these players who are potentially very, very close or could well be heading out the door are going to be needed and called upon over in the US. And they'll be flying out the weekend.
Carl Hein as well.
I know, Carl Hein. I think, Carl Hein. I think Tommy Setford's definitely going to get done before they go out. I think the plan is that he will go out. It wouldn't surprise me if they try and get Bentley before they fly as well. I think they're probably going with another bid for Bentley. Probably going to have to be slightly higher than £50,000 to get that one done. Barely get a first class flight to the US tour with £50,000, can you nowadays?
Could they not just do a sort of whip around the dressing room on a Friday afternoon? Sort of say, look, lads, if we can't get this done, it's Carl Hein all on his own as our goalkeeper. So I'm with you. I think Bentley will get done, and I'm very confident. Setford, yeah, his name. I mean, I almost wonder if, let's say, Setford got done and Bentley didn't, if you would maybe see the argument, what do you think about playing Setford in goal on the basis that you're kind of intending for Carl Hein to go out on loan this summer?
No, I think you play Carl Hein. I think if you're
he's
Carl
earned
Hein,
it.
you're fuming. If
Yeah.
Tommy Setford gets picked ahead of you on the US tour, if you're going over there, even if, yes, you've agreed to go out on loan, you'd be expecting to play in those games. I think if you're Carl Hein. So no, I think he'd get around. I'm sure Setford would get an appearance, but I think Carl Hein would be starting in those games. I can't believe this weekend. They fly out. It's all gone so quickly. So you've seen how it's going to be staggered. So I think obviously you've got lads that are there now, and then people who went out in the knockouts. Is there anyone other than Zinchenko? There must be. Who am I missing out?
The group stage.
Yeah, in the group stages. So Ukraine went out. So
I don't think there will be.
Is that he says he's going to be the only one who comes back on Friday? Did they fly out on Saturday or Sunday? I can't remember what it is now. I've lost it out the top of my head. I did speak to someone about it a couple of days ago.
I also have it sort of very low down in my notes.
Kivior, there you go. Kivior will be back as well. So Kivior and Zinchenko will come back, and they all fly out with the squad. And then everyone who got to the quarterfinals and the semis, they'll come back about a few days into the tour, maybe after the first game, maybe the second game. And then obviously the Arsenal boys who got to the final of the Euros, they come back after the tour. That's how it's going to be staggered.
And I mean, we spoke about this last week. It sounds like you're more across this than I am. Are we expecting any of the England boys to play any part in the preseason friendlies?
Possibly the Emirates games, yeah. It might not be the first one, but I think the second one game, certainly. They come back that week, basically. So I think they'll probably aim to give them, 20 minutes, half an hour in the second game. Might be a push for the first one.
I'm torn between that on the 11th or possibly a game like a Sheffield Wednesday or Plymouth or Luton Burnley. I don't know what's more exciting, the start of a new proper football season or Arsenal's final pre-season friendly.
I'm in Portugal, so I'm not going to be at either of them. I get back a day before the season starts, so I'll be at Wolves, but I miss the two Emirates games.
That's not commitment. That we all know that pre-season is actually secretly the most important time to work.
Did you get the emails? You got the accreditations coming up for those two games. So if you got to make your choice.
I've applied for Lyon, and Lynn, if you're watching this, I don't know. I would like to go. We'll see. I don't know what I need to do. Yeah, is Chelsea into that day as well? I mean, the friendlies right now they're all like mini Champions League games. It's a tough choice when you have the life of us, isn't it? Which football match shall I go to this weekend?
Yeah, a really tough choice. Right, we'll do some questions now, shall we?
Let's.
Right, there's one here from Fatahal who says, "Hi, Charles James. Are you not worried, disappointed we are not being linked with any ceiling raisers such as Kimmich, Bruno G or De Jong? All the players that we're linked with are valuable squad additions at best, but not ceiling raisers, in my opinion." Any concerns for you at the moment in terms of how Arsenal's transfer window is shaping up?
I mean, obviously, especially the last guy mentioned there, Frankie de Jong, I think would be wonderful for Arsenal. I'm quite skeptical about kind of Joshua Kimmich. I think he's getting a bit old. And, you know, I think in the end, the point is when you buy that ceiling raiser player, he's got to be the one, like Declan Rice was. And actually, you know, frankly, like Gabriel Jesus was briefly, but hasn't been. And then you find yourself in a position where you're kind of having to fix that problem with more money, a lot more money. And so I think if the right sort of superstar doesn't become available, the worst thing you can do is buy the third, fourth, fifth guy down on your list if you're not entirely sold on them. So I'm not entirely sold on Bruno or frankly Kimmich. As much as I like the talent, I just think a lot of miles in the legs now. Whatever his age, it's been a lot of football. My head just goes to Schweinsteiger. So I wouldn't be worried. I'd like them to come in, but I think the worst thing to do is to make the wrong call on that. And take De Jong, for example. If Barcelona's finances don't improve and their football doesn't improve, he's going to have to become available one day. And it would be such a pity if Arsenal couldn't get him because they'd spent a load of money on a slightly inferior option.
Yeah, I'm not overly concerned yet. I would like a couple of guys in pretty quickly now the Euros is over. It'd be nice to get two on board at least to just to settle in before the season starts, because it's such an important start to the season for Arsenal. I like what Arsenal have done so far, the pre-season in Marbella, everything. When you listen to Arteta in the interviews he's done, you could tell that there's so much focus on starting the season well. They're working so hard on starting that season well, but it would just be nice to get a couple of additions. I'm not too bothered about the whole term, the phrase ceiling raiser either, to be honest, because you just don't know how a player is going to perform. It doesn't matter who they are, how much they cost, what their pedigree is as well. I just anyone that they sign, I'd feel fairly confident they're going to come in and be real assets this season. So I'm not so bothered about the ceiling raiser or the floor raiser type thing people are talking about. I would like to get another couple of guys on board just to bolster that squad up. So yeah, but I'm not overly concerned, I have to say. There's one from Carlo who says, extra time question. Would you consider selling Saliba if Real Madrid or PSG come in with £150 million plus bid, and would Mark Gahey be a suitable replacement for him?
Should we answer the second one first? Yeah. Like, if I had to, I would like him. He's not the youngest. How old is he?
Mid-20s.
Mark Gahey is live Googling 24. Okay, that's fine. But as to the first question, absolutely not. Never in a million years. Younger Arsenal viewers here may not remember what summers in the early 2000s were like. The never-ending stream of stories about especially Patrick Vieira's future. Buckle up. I'm so ready for that. Every single year, I want the links and I want them to fall away until I'm done with William Saliba, until we've used him up like a bar of soap and there's nothing left. 150 million, no chance.
No. The only thing with Saliba, and it's just that nagging doubt at the back of my head, is they need to be talking contracts like now.
Every year.
Yeah. It needs to happen now, because if you get another year down the line and he's still on the one that he signed, a year ago, then you're getting in dangerous territory of just being vulnerable to someone coming in and offering money when you're thinking, oh, well, if he's not going to sign, we might have to take this. Because I don't like you. I don't want Saliba to go anywhere. I just, you look at him and just think, this guy I think he's already the best centre back in the world, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And he's only going to get better as well. So I wouldn't want him to go anywhere. But there's just that little nagging doubt at the back of my mind that they need to get him. They need to get another new contract sorted with him pretty quickly to avoid becoming vulnerable to the likes of him. Because you can imagine Real Madrid and PSG are sitting there in their offices, when they're planning for recruitment. Those clubs, every other club as well, top of the list for what centre back do we want to sign if we could. William Saliba will be number one, surely, of every single position.
Yeah. There's not a lot that Arsenal can learn from the last 10 years of Tottenham, but one thing they were great at was sort of every 6-9 months you'd look up and Harry Kane signed a new contract. And it was almost like it took Harry Kane by surprise as well, that sort of in his mid-20s he looked down and he was like, wait, I'm contracted here till when? And I think if you keep throwing pay rises at Saliba, he will still be underpaid, because centre back and centre forward, in my mind, are the two most important positions in football. And you have, like you say, I agree with you, the Euros proved it, the best centre back in the world.
Mm-hmm. Right, now one from Brian says, hi Charles, thanks for the great content. Our run-in for the tourney last season was when we started Jorginho. I feel he's very important to what we do as a team. This transfer window, what is important would be to buy a younger Jorginho type player, somebody who does everything, most things Jorginho does, but younger. Wanted to know, Charles, if you feel Merino is that player. Also important to consider that contracts for Partey and Jorginho are ending next season, so whoever we buy will be the future of the number 6 position in the team. So we haven't really spoken about Merino yet, and I deliberately didn't speak about him because I knew this question was coming up. So I can't sit here right now and proclaim to be an expert. I haven't sat there and watched Real Sociedad over and over and over again of Mikel Merino. And but since the last couple of weeks with the Arsenal stuff going on, I've tried to at least get a better grasp of what he is about and what he's done at Sociedad. And he does have a lot of the attributes which I can see why Arsenal are very keen on potentially bringing him in. I think he can play in a couple of positions in midfield, which is absolutely essential for Mikel Arteta. You could play him as a 6, you could play him as a box-to-box player. He is strong, he's tall, he's good in the air as well. And Mikel's kind of building this very physical, strong team as well. So there's lots of attributes with him. This is kind of going to contradict myself a little bit on what I was just talking about when I was talking about not really being too bothered about ceiling raisers. But the one position I would really like a big ceiling raiser in this team is in midfield, whether that be in the 8 role or the 6 role, whatever you decide where Declan Rice is going to play. I think that's an area where you can dramatically improve the team and make it hugely solid for the next few years. And I look at Merino through my limited knowledge of him and think, I'm not sure he is that guy. I think he would be a good squad addition. You know, is he better than Mohamed Elneny? 100%. Yes, he's better than Mohamed Elneny. Does it leave you in a good position when one of, if not both players, Jorginho or Partey, leave in the next 12 months? Yes, he probably does. But is he the guy to be that third man in midfield alongside Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard long term? I'm just not. I'm not 100% sure on it at the moment. But I wouldn't be against the signing. But that's the only sort of reservation I have. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, I would almost sort of question the premise of Brian's question, really. I don't think Arsenal here are buying the future of their number 6 or number 8 position. Like you said, they're buying someone to be a squad player. Like, kind of, when I look at him, especially if you think that Sociedad used Zubamendi really doing more Jorginho-y things, I would imagine he will play more as an 8, but I'm open to being proved wrong here. But obviously, technically very strong. He could be a 6 as well. But I mean, it's worth bearing in mind that as we speak right now, Arsenal do have 2 6s in addition to whatever Rice is. Obviously, we know Jorginho signed that new contract. He's here for next season. And I kind of, from what I understand of Thomas Partey's situation, there's not been any conversations with Arsenal about his future. He intends to stay for the final year of his contract. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know you know that the guys around him very well as well, but that's my understanding. And you know, everyone talks about Saudi Arabia. There've been no kind of conversations from PIF so far. Nothing really of no offers or anything from any other Saudi club. So I think the way to almost view this is does the superstar central midfielder come in a year's time? And I think that may well be the case. Yeah. The new Jorginho.
Here's one from Sam from Nigeria. It says, hi, Charles and Benge. You know, Benge.
Hey, everyone calls me that. It's so weird.
I call you that. I think not knowing exactly what Arteta and Edu are planning concerning incomings is what's getting the fan base a bit riled up. We all have our opinions and picks, but only they know what they need and can get. I would just trust their decisions at this point and pray that they get it right. We should just back them. So it's not so much of a question, that's more of a comment. And it's kind of one that I would agree with as well. I just think they've both done enough in the last few transfer windows to just back their plans at the moment. Did you see Mikel's interview he did on the club website from Marbella, where he was talking about the transfers and the difficulties they've faced because of PSR and everything like that in this summer and how the market's changed? But he was still sounding pretty confident that they are going to get things done and they're putting things in place to ensure they can have a pretty strong window. And when he talks like that, I do expect something fairly good to happen before the window closes.
Yeah, I mean, just as well, like Sam says, they're very good at keeping their cards close to their chest, and I think that's quite a deliberate ploy. One thing I would say, Arsenal, if you kind of find out information, like, you know, that's one thing, but Arsenal are just they never really did put things out there. But I think when they're talking to agents, players, other execs, I think they've been very good at making sure the news doesn't get out, which is very impressive and very frustrating for us.
Yeah. And that's another thing, isn't it? It's just that just because there's not loads and loads of links out there doesn't mean they're not doing any work. They are absolutely doing plenty of work and putting lots of groundwork into getting things done. Unfortunately, it's just not easy. I mean, look at the Calafiori stuff at the moment. That's still going on and doesn't seem to be close yet to reach an agreement. I was reading earlier, actually, I think it was Gazzetta dello Sport today, talking about the situation and saying that he's going to be back pre-season training and they're trying to get a deal done with Bologna. Is it Basel, wasn't it, to reduce the 50% sell-on fee that that Basel would be entitled to, and until they can do that, then they're treating Calafiori as that he's going to be staying and he's going to be going to their training camp, so that's going to rumble on a fair bit as well. But yeah, unfortunately with transfers, it's never easy, or never feels like it's too easy with Arsenal. Going to 72 says, what's and the Benge, not just Benge, you are the Benge. Now, if we were only to make one single transfer this summer, which position and what player would it be? Your budget is strictly limited to 70 million, and Edu would much prefer it if you spent less. Yeah, which position and what player? 70 million pounds to play with.
Nico Williams' release clause is what again? Remind me.
Less than 70 million.
Yeah, that's the one. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. Having just said that, I think the ceiling raiser would come in midfielder this summer. I find it very hard to not watch the Euros.
Just want
think, oh my God, I want Nico Williams. And this is coming from a massive Gabriel Martinelli fan, who I by the way, think is going to have a really strong season this season. But yeah, he just he's so exciting, isn't he? But so is Martinelli as well. So I have to temper what I say about Williams, but he would absolutely be right up there. Him and see, I know you don't really like it, but if I could get Bruno Guimaraes for 70 million, I would absolutely do that this summer.
I'm chill at that fee. I'm okay with it at that fee.
I don't think Newcastle would do it, but if they agreed at 70 million, I think he would be one of my picks as well.
Thank God Guna 72 didn't tell us our wage budget was limited as well.
Yeah. Right, and this is the last one now before we cut this one short for the week. Hi, Charles and James. This is from Amabits, who says, appreciate your content and love from India. Over the last 2 seasons, we've played amazing football, no denying that. But at the same time, football is also about winning something. So far under Arteta, we have won just the FA Cup, which surprisingly came with one of our weakest squad, having the likes of Mustafi, Luiz in our defence. Now, with such an improved squad, why are we not making deep runs in the Cups? Please don't get me wrong. I'm not under Arteta out thing, but if Arteta has to have his legacy, he needs to show some trophies. That is certainly what I believe. So what do you experts think ahead of the upcoming season? Only having a deep run in the league without any trophy, would it still be regarded as a success? PS, I definitely want Arsenal to win the league. No, well, I wouldn't class a deep run without a trophy, a deep run in the league without a trophy as a success. I wouldn't really class last season as a success, but it was still a strong season. But I wouldn't have sat there and said it was a success. I think Arsenal do need a deep run in a cup competition this year, and I'm not talking about the Champions League. I think a domestic cup, they have to show they've got a squad capable of being able to not just challenge for the Premier League and the Champions League, but also go deep in, if not both, one of the cups, both of the cups. Because the cup form is really annoying me. I have to admit, the last few years it's been really annoying. It's just missed opportunities of getting your hands on a trophy, and if you're just constantly fighting for one or maybe two, and those are the top 2 prizes in European football, basically, then you're going to end up disappointed time and time again, really, because they're very, very hard to win. So you've got to be able to show that you've got a squad capable of challenging for the cups as well. So I really, really want to see Arsenal go deep this season in the cups in England.
And I think as much as Arteta doesn't have to sort of fully, he has one cup, but you do sort of think, Pochettino's Spurs, I keep bringing up Spurs today. Apologies to all our viewers about that. But Pochettino's Spurs were brilliant, one of the best teams in Europe for several years. But the fact that what defines that team is that it never translated to a single piece of silverware. And I don't think Arsenal want the same. And I think last year it was valid to say, look, Arsenal have to prove that they are real contenders. Everyone thought World Cup season was weird. Let's see them prove it. Now they've done that. Now the thing is, you need to prove that you're real contenders across the sweep of competitions available to you, like Liverpool have been, like City are. That's the level now, because you have to keep improving. And frankly, if your transfer business is about giving yourself a deeper squad, a squad that Arteta uses more, that means I can give you much less leeway if you're knocked out of the EFL Cup or if you're knocked out of the FA Cup, because you've been saying you're building a deeper squad. So, like you, I didn't think last season was a success, but I wouldn't have criticised the fact, well, it was at most a sort of minor disappointment, I think, in this brilliant ride that Arsenal didn't go deep in the domestic cups. But like you, I think there would be much more cause for dissatisfaction if Arsenal, if they lose the FA Cup and EFL Cup final to Man City, well, we'll be having the same old conversations in the spring. But they've got to be contenders in everything, in every game they play now. That's the standard. It's not any less than that.
Yeah, it is. No one's got a divine right to win any silverware, and it is obviously very, very hard to win silverware. But this Arsenal team is good enough to get trophies, and it would be such a shame if they don't get trophies under their belts and end up, like you said, that sort of Spurs example with Pochettino Spurs is a really, really good one. And Arsenal need to now go on
Or England,
or England, exactly. And yeah, so I think Arsenal need to get some trophies on the board. Obviously, we all want that, and hopefully they will. I do think they're going to do it this season as well. I don't know what competition. I do feel like they can win the Premier League. I'm pretty confident. We'll do a prediction show at some point soon. Maybe that I'll put out one in Portugal actually. So we'll have to sit down and do our predictions. But I am going to predict Arsenal are going to win the Premier League this season. I think I did last season as well, though. To be fair, but yeah, they're good enough to win a trophy. Fingers crossed they can. Right, that's about it for today and this week, everyone. Thank you very much for watching, as always, or listening. Of course, I'll be back again tomorrow to do my usual daily show, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Myself and James will be back at some point next week to do another one of these. Have a fantastic end to your week, everyone. James, cheers for joining me, mate. Have a good week, and catch up with you soon.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
See you later, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye.